everybody, Ben and Denise and Decker here from the Renewed Homestead. And most of our videos, we try to have fun and bring you along for, things that we're doing and fixing and trying and all that. Today's video is a little more on the serious side. It's actually very serious, and some of this is going to be a little dry, but we're going to need you to stay with us on this. If you saw my short from earlier today, this is an extension of that, but they are trying to enact. They're not trying to pass legislation. This is
it's not legislation.
Technically not legislation, but basically they want
it's
to.
An environmental impact study.
There you go.
Is what they're.
There it is, and in the environmental impact study, could hand the Secretary of Agriculture a lot more power. Another unelected official with power to decide how our lives are run. So what they're looking to do is basically the avian flu. They want to be able to control whether birds, your chickens, your guineas, your ducks, your turkeys, it's about all of them, peacocks, I suppose.
Partridge.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Well, what's a quail?
Quail
was
yes.
The one I was thinking of.
Can't cross state lines. And there's been some suspicious stuff going on with the food markets, sources, warehouses, whatever it might be. And this just all seems very suspicious. But Denise has this up. She just got off the phone with Murray McMurray. They were not even aware that this was going through. We have 2 days to basically, if you want to leave a comment, your thoughts on that, and in that 2 days, you also need to be contacting your legislators and letting them know that, hey, you need to put the brakes on this. We don't need more. The government does not need more power.
Yes,
no.
And so basically, if you're talking interstate movement, this is what the impact study says. The movement in interstate commerce of any animal, article, or means of conveyance, if the Secretary determines that the prohibition or restriction is necessary to prevent the introduction or dissemination of any pest or disease of livestock, and the use of any means of conveyance or facility in connection with the movement in interstate commerce of any animal or article, if the Secretary determines that the prohibition or restriction is necessary to prevent the introduction or dissemination of any pest or disease or livestock. And if you fail to comply, they're just going to come in and cull your flock. So
and probably penalize you.
And penalize you, yes. There are fines that are associated with this. And we know this avian flu, we know it's a very odd flu. Typically you see it for a few months, it goes away, it might come back. I mean, this has lasted all year long.
Right.
So extremely odd avian flu. And this is actually, the research I've done, this is originating in wild birds. So they're saying the wild birds are actually infecting the commercial flocks or backyard flocks. All of this, and they're saying that this is the Animal Protection Act, right? Like you said earlier in short.
Hey, sounds great. We want to protect the animals, and absolutely, we agree with that, but this is a power grab.
Yeah, well, and the fact is, okay, when you go back, we know already this is a very unusual avian flu. But when you go back to what the government is suggesting that you do, the testing, all of it, it's a little suspicious. And look, I guess we ought to be wearing our tinfoil hats for this, but a lot of it's very suspicious. So first thing I want to do is cover what the Extension Office, this was back, last January, was it last January, February, March, something like that. What they recommended that we do with our flocks. So they recommended, even though our flock wasn't showing any signs that anybody was sick, there were no issues at all, they wanted us to take our flock and put them indoors, right? So number one, if you do have any kind of chicken that is showing any, or duck or turkey, that's showing any symptoms, even if they don't have symptoms, if they do have something going on, well, you're putting them indoors, and now every single one of those chickens is going to be in close proximity to each other.
Right.
So what does that do with viruses, right? Y'all, I mean, most of us have kids. Right, they went to preschool and kindergarten and first grade.
And when your child's sick, do you send them to school to infect everybody else? No, you isolate them as best you can.
Exactly. So they wanted us to put them inside. Well, the other thing that doesn't make sense about this, vitamin D, y'all, the sun kills viruses. fresh air kills viruses. So why would you put everybody indoors? And then they were like, do this for like 30 days. I'm like, well, if this is coming from wild birds, well, that means in 30 days, the birds aren't going to be infected anymore. Like,
right.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
Right. So that already was just odd. But then if you look at the testing that has taken place over the last several months, the testing's inadequate. So most of the testing that they're doing is testing for an antibody to this avian flu, right? But here's the issue. Is the testing only shows for antibodies. It doesn't show current infection. It doesn't show past infection. It doesn't show if it's a high amount of infection or a low amount of infection. It doesn't show any of that. And to have a more in-depth test is extremely expensive. Most farmers are not going to have that, or backyard flock owners are not going to have this. So we cannot tell whether or not they've gotten over it, if they just have antibodies. Do they have some antibodies but they're not showing any symptoms?
Well, which is a good thing.
Well,
It's immunity.
Well, exactly. But here's the issue is they're going in and they're testing flocks. And you can actually look this up. There's actually a lot of farmers that have talked about this. Their flocks had, tested positive. They didn't call them right away. They allowed to see if they got better. They started getting better. They were actually thriving, doing really well. They got over it. Well, the government came in then and culled the flock, even though they were doing better, which also doesn't make any sense, right?
No.
Because if anybody who raises animals knows, if you have weak animals and they die off and you have other animals that got over the illness or the sickness or didn't get it, those are the qualities that you propagate, because then they're strong. They're stronger animals.
Stronger herd.
Strengthen the flock, strengthen the herd, strengthen all of it.
Yep.
And so, and we're seeing here that it doesn't just say poultry, y'all. This is affecting, they're saying this is because of the avian flu, but it says any livestock. Right? So that's kind of a key component that I caught on to in this environmental impact study.
Yeah. So it's interesting that Murray McMurray had not heard of it. We let him know. And
yeah, we called just to kind of find out what their thoughts were. We've got chickens coming in March because, as y'all know, the fox got almost all of our Bielefelders last year except for our rooster. So we're trying to regrow that flock. But yeah, Murray McMurray had no idea. And what's interesting is this is really difficult to find. Like, I was on the phone with her, I was giving her the title of it, and she was still struggling to find the environmental impact study. Yep. So finally found it, and it's almost like, by law they have to allow comment. It's almost like they don't want to allow comments, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, all the timing. I mean, we've got weather balloons being shot down. We've got trains on fire. Got a lot of things going on, and things kind of getting slipped through under the cover of darkness, if you will.
Yes, and this.
Yeah, we need hecklefish and our tinfoil hats for sure.
Right. So it's interesting, and the other thing too that you and I have talked about is natural immunity.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't.
Well, yeah, because if they have natural immunity, why would you cull that bird?
Right.
Right. So
it's passing along those genes, so you've got stronger, healthier birds.
So it seems like we've heard this before.
Huh.
So a lot of this doesn't make any sense to us, y'all. And we know, guys, okay, we've had droughts. We've had freezing temperatures that came right through the Midwest in December. We were part of that. Texas, Kansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma. I mean, you talk about a good part of the middle of our country, crops have been decimated. Right? That doesn't include all of the chicken flocks, both bird and meat, that have been culled. The issues that we're seeing with our meat supply because of the drought with the cattle. So if now we're starting to restrict interstate sales of chickens, turkeys, other game fowl, now we're also restricting the use of people to actually grow their own food and raise their own food. Because as you all seen, I mean, we obviously have an egg shortage. Egg prices are through the roof. We're seeing beef prices go up, which we knew they would, right? After you have this big sell-off of the beef from the drought.
Yep.
So it's interfering with our ability to raise our own food. And here's the thing that's interesting. Back in the early 2000s, when we saw the avian flu come in, the Bush administration, I believe it was the Bush administration at that time,
I believe so.
allowed the states to actually determine what action they were going to take. which is the appropriate
Yes.
action. The federal government has been overstepping a lot. You know, y'all, I'm going to say we're not Republican, we're not Democrat. Technically, we're going to vote for whoever we feel is best, and we don't have really any confidence in most of the politicians that are out there right now. But we are freedom, right? We do believe in freedom, and we are people that want to follow our Constitution, and we want to be safe, but at the same time, we don't want government overreach. And what we have seen, I'd say over the last several decades, is more and more and more government overreach, limiting our ability to actually live the lifestyle that we want to live.
Yeah, and don't think that this law, what is it called?
Environmental impact study.
Environmental impact study. Don't think that it's going to go away. If they get this pushed through, they're not going to say, okay, well, you know, the bird flu, we don't see it anymore. We're going to hand this power back to the powers that we've got is not going to be handed back to the people. The government does not release power once it's got it.
No.
And this is just one more step.
Well, and like we said, it says any livestock.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the other thing that's very interesting, and to me it's very concerning. You know, and like Ben said in his earlier video, not every state has a hatchery.
Yeah.
Right. Like we usually get our birds from Murray McMurray.
Yeah.
Right. They're what, in Iowa? So
Is it Iowa?
I believe it's Iowa. I think so.
Sorry, Murray McMurray. I'm not sure where they are.
Yeah, I think it's Iowa.
But
correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Iowa.
Yeah, but you know, if you think, well, I'm just going to go down to my local supply store and you know they have all the cute little peeps out there in the spring and pick some up, they might not be there. They might not be able to get them either.
Well, and think about it. If this goes through and people's orders have to be canceled from out of state, all those farm stores are going to get picked off immediately.
Oh yeah.
People are going to run down and get those immediately. So like I said, we have chickens. We can incubate more of our eggs. Right now, we just want a very specific breed. And there's some things we're trying to do with that we'll talk about more in depth once we get the chickens. But I would encourage you all, just in case, go get an incubator. Start incubating your own eggs. Just in case this does go through and you're not able to get them from the farm store, just in case you're not able to get in from out of state. We don't know if this is going anywhere. We're hoping that this is going to be stopped. But like Ben said, these are unelected officials making decisions. This stuff should be going through Congress.
Yep.
And and the thing is that I see a lot of, and we've seen this over the last few years, y'all, and I think y'all know what I'm talking about. We have seen a lot of panic and a lot of reaction, and we haven't seen
knee-jerk reaction.
Yes, knee-jerk reactions. We haven't seen a lot of people step back and say, let's look at the big picture, let's see what's going on. A lot of people are just throwing regulation after regulation after regulation out there, and like you said, just not thinking things through.
They trust the government that the government's going to take care of them.
Well, but it's the government doing all the knee-jerk reactions.
Well, I know, and nobody's stopping them.
No.
Are they?
No. So we just wanted to go a little more in depth onto what this environmental impact study is, why this is so dangerous, y'all. And I, if they are restricting interstate sales of poultry, they can start to limit interstate sales of other things. And like you said, any livestock and anything the Secretary of Agriculture deems necessary, right? So what does that mean? That means anything they deem necessary. So, and most of the time, y'all, the Secretary of Agriculture isn't a farmer.
No.
They don't have any experience with that. They're another unelected bureaucrat making decisions instead of actually going and talking with farmers. And we also talked about the impact, right? Why is this so critical? It's not just affecting our livelihoods. It's affecting other people's livelihoods.
Oh yeah. I mean, how many people does Murray McMurray employ? I mean, they'll probably be out of business. And the people that, the Postal Service that ships them out and everybody in between. And you think eggs are expensive now. So.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing a lot of people don't think about, right? You've got big, these big farms, right? And all the chickens are contained. So they go in, they gas these birds. they're done, right? They don't have any other part of their farm affected, right?
Well, worse than that, some places they turn up the heat and cook these
yes.
poor animals to death.
Yeah,
That's their answer for culling
yes.
on a large scale. Okay, sorry.
No, you're right. We've seen that.
It's
We've
disgusting.
actually seen that on farms. It is disgusting. But if you have a small farm, while we're home, we don't do this when we're not home just because of the predator situation. But when we're home, we will allow our birds to free range, right? And we want them up in the pasture because they're going through those poop piles, right? That the sheep and the goats and the cows are doing. And there's all kinds of bugs in there. Yep. They're getting good protein. They're scratching that poop back into the pasture. That's all part of permaculture and all part of regenerative agriculture. It's what we want them to do. But they go all over our farm, y'all. They're all over our, I guess technically, I mean, we were a homestead. I think technically now we're turning more into a farm, but they are all over our property, right? So what happens if you have a small farm that's selling eggs or selling birds for meat, and they free range their animals, which is a far more humane thing to do? Well, now their entire property is contaminated. So are they going to be able to use that property for the next several months? Yeah. Right? So these are all things that nobody thinks about, nobody considers. But it's really critical that we think through these things. We are so disconnected from the people that raise our food, right? We've gone to this massive corporate agricultural system instead of really focusing on local. And I think if we can get back to supporting our local farmers and our small farms, we can take a lot of the power out of the hands of a lot of these bigger corporations and industries.
I think we have to. We really do have to get back to buy locally.
Yes.
Grow it yourself and buy locally.
Yes. Grow it yourself. Raise it yourself. Grow it yourself if you can. If not, find a local farmer.
Yeah. So. If you haven't listed out your seeds and started planting your garden, you better get on it quick.
Yes.
63 today.
You should not be in a t-shirt.
No.
Today.
No.
But what do y'all think? I'd be curious to see what your things are. Look, I can understand, our government trying to say, look, we want to stop the spread. We want to protect this. But y'all, how many freedoms have we had taken away because of the protection?
Yeah.
Right? Like, and the fact that we have whole flocks being culled that are healthy, that have natural immunity, or that have had the illness and have gotten over it.
Yeah.
A little odd to me.
Thousands of birds killed because one showed up positive for the antibody, which might have been a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a full test.
Yes.
So anyway, just scary, but we wanted to bring that to you. Sorry, we might have been a little bit long-winded. I told you those, some of this seems a little bit dry, but it's important. You've got to know what's going on behind the scenes. Pull back the curtain and see that who the magic wizard is or whatever. But
well, and I'm going to say this, and this might upset some people.
Oh, here it comes.
But if you are not writing your legislators, if you are not commenting, if you are not voting, if you are not trying to change what's happening, then you have no right to complain about this. Yep. We passed legislation in Arizona. It took us 4 years, y'all. It was not easy. It was painful and difficult, and it was extremely hard work. But we saw firsthand what a difference we can make if we all come together. And if we all come together and we start raising a stink about this, we can stop this.
Yep.
But it's going to take people actually getting on, and I'm going to post the link to this environmental impact study and where you can comment. We all need to get on and comment. We all need to contact our legislators and say no more. We are not doing this. We need actual people that actually know what's going on, that can actually take a step back and see what we need to do instead of just knee-jerk reactions and trying to control everything.
Yep. And you know what the sad thing is? You probably won't do it. And I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but we saw it with our legislation. People, oh, I'm on board. You're doing great work. We want to help. We want to help. Even our families couldn't even go onto a link and write a comment. Or
some of our family.
Some of our family did. Thank you again. But
yes.
Most people just won't. They won't. I mean, we even wrote out emails for our legislation and asked them, even if you just copy and paste it and add your comments at the bottom, they couldn't even be bothered with that. So yes. Chances are a lot of you won't. I know you're worked up about it. We've got information in your hands, and it's scary times. But are you really going to do something?
I hope so.
Will you please? Just do it now.
Yeah.
Take 5 minutes.
Like I said, we're not trying to offend anybody. We're not
No.
trying to be disrespectful, but y'all, you know, bad things happen because good men do nothing. I mean, that's a fact. And we have allowed our government to become so bloviated, right?
Ooh, bloviated.
Like it's ridiculous, and it's time to take our power back.
Yep.
And it's time to stop. Like I said, I understand the government wanting to stop outbreaks. I completely understand it, but we have to stop unelected bureaucrats who know nothing about the situation to control our ability to raise and grow our own food and our own livestock.
Yeah. Nepotism is alive and well in government, and that's how these people get put in office, not elected office, put in office.
Yes.
But well, this is sure to get the YouTube algorithm and toss us out. So if you do get to see this and we disappear, you can find us at renewedhomestead.com. We'll still post videos there. But,
also on Rumble.
and on Rumble. But YouTube might not like this, but, you know, it's got to be said. Yeah. So, all right.
So please comment, contact your legislators, guys. We can talk to each other all day long about the injustices of our government, about the injustices of what's happened, about the suspicions with our food supply, but we have to be willing to actually take action peacefully.
Yep.
Right? Peacefully.
Yep. And it's easier to take action now before something like this is put in place than to get it back out of there.
Yes. All right, let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know if you knew about this, because this is really difficult to find, and the people that have commented so far on the short, or other people I've talked to, they had no idea. Even Murray McMurray didn't know about this.
Yep.
Which this affects their business.
So, 2 things you need to do: go in and make that comment, and pray. Please pray.
Yes, and contact your legislator. 3 things.
3. Sorry. Yes. 3 calls to action.
Yes, and please pray.
Yes. All right, well, hope it didn't bring you down. Hope you learned something today, and we hope and pray for you and that you take action to help everybody. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Take care, everybody. God bless. We'll see you on the next video.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.